Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
It's you and the senorita woofer blowing up the tweeter cause it's me up in the speaker. Knocking the mama seat top down like a player and the sound up in your ears it is the dopest rhyme say I run a game like
If you can hear the sound of my voice, let me tell you who I think you are. Let me tell you how I see you when I picture you in my mind. Let me tell you who I think of when I think of you listening. You are not gay. You are not straight. You are not Muslim or Christian. You are not an atheist. You're not pro-gun. You're not anti-gun. You are not rich or poor. You are not a Republican. You are not a Democrat. You are not defined, in my eyes, by your race, your religion, your income, the car you drive, the house you live in, the team you root for, the politician that you're hoping becomes the next president. You are not a vote, nor are you the house of worship you attend. You're not the food you eat or the products you buy. You're not a Mac, you're not a PC, you're not an Android, you're not an iPhone. You're not an environmentalist. You're not a climate change denier. You're not pro or anti-fracking. You are not a color of skin. You are, most likely, an American. And you are living life in America. You are a human. You are not me and I am not you. You and I definitely disagree on some things. You and I could not think more differently on some very, very important issues. But now and always, while I may not agree with you, and I may not relate to you, or I may not understand you, I may not understand you. If you aren't hurting anyone, I stand with you. Unless it's for a 3-hour period on a day that the Mets are playing the Nationals or the Dodgers or the Phillies, I will not let our differences, great or small, divide us. I will not let our political or religious beliefs divide us. No matter how much I am bewildered by the things you may say or the things you may do that I do not understand, no matter how much I can look at something that is white and hear you swear it was black, I will never forget that you are a human. And I will not dismiss you. And I will not dismiss your beliefs. I will stand strong by your side as a human who is on the side of humanity. If you hear the sound of my voice today, chances are you are here. You are living in America. You are experiencing the aftershock of an absolutely horrific day. The Orlando shooting is not just the deadliest terrorist attack on U.S. shores since 9/11. It is, to the best of my knowledge, the worst act of violence and the worst act of homophobia in the entire history of our nation. And it is the deadliest mass shooting in America ever. The arguments, the insults, the division, the negativity, the politicizing that surrounds these events Please. I know. I understand. I know it's easy to get caught up. But please, please, do not be a part of it. These things, these disagreements, these outbursts, they've come from grief. They come from fear. They come from passion. They are understandable, but they do nothing for us. You may believe that if there were no guns, this wouldn't have happened. You may believe that if there was an armed civilian present, this could have been averted. You may believe that if Muslims weren't allowed in this country, lives could have been saved. You may believe that Muslims, if they weren't vilified based on their faith, we'd be in a much better place. Believe what you will. You can't deny your gut. You can't change your truth. But please be righteous and let your beliefs come from a place of love. We cannot allow events like this to divide us.
Tonight you're cutting loose and having fun, 'cause that's my job and my job's about to get done. Yeah, that's how I'm operating, and I'm thankful.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
I do what I want, when I want, how I want. Every day you're going and working, running that rat race at that pace in that place will leave a bad taste for anyone, everyone working day after day. So buddy, I gotta say, for you, there's gotta be a better way. Yeah, and you do what they told ya. Company man, feel it, a mindless little soldier. How can you live like that and maintain your composure before it's begun? Your life's already freaking over. Yeah, I do what I want, when I want, how I want. Yeah, I do what I want, when I want, how I want. This is my United States of
A nursing student named Joshua McGill escaped the club, helped one of the victims to get to the hospital. A man who'd been shot multiple times and was bleeding badly. This is a nursing student who saved a man's life, talking about how he did it.
I took my shirt off and then tied it around his first arm to stop the bleeding. And then I asked if I can have his shirt so I can tie it around his other arm. We're both laying on the back of the police car. There's blood all over it. And then I'm like bear hugging him to stop the bleeding with the other shirt on his back. And I'm just like, talking to him and, kind of like rocking him a little bit to keep him conscious. And because the hospital was maybe 5 minutes away, if that. So it was really brief, and we got there as quick as possible.
Didn't know him. Had no idea who he was. And basically hugged him to keep him alive. Some quick thinking. And some actions that were born out of compassion and care for a fellow human being. In times like these, you hope justice is swift and devastating. You hope that something like this launches us into action that deals with people like this in a total and final way. You hope that the enemy and the enemies of humanity are destroyed wherever they are. All of that is without question. But it's also a time where you are struck by humanity and love, especially if you're listening to this from Orlando. The way the community of Orlando rallied out of love and compassion. The pride we all feel for you is so immense. And the pride you should feel for yourself is beyond measure. This is a time where I'm struck by humanity and love in the wake of something awful. The miracle of kindness, the miracle of compassion that is so evident in times like these. And I would urge in these times of crisis and hatred and terror, yes, justice. We do need justice. Swift, brutal, to those who would commit and who commit these crimes of hate, of terror, of war. But please, please, please also remember that the fight is not only in the air, on land, at seas, fought by the soldiers in all the branches of our brave military and the militaries of other countries around the world that we must unite with against this common foe. The fight, especially as this is a war that is not always going to be fought with or by soldiers. This is a fight that is going to be fought person to person through acts of random terror in the places we call our homes. The fight is in your heart. The fight is in your mind, and we will win by not letting them take the love from our hearts for all that is good and for all those who are good. So as we move forward, please redouble your efforts to keep love untarnished in your heart and to always remain on the side of humanity. Like I said, I understand, and you saw it almost immediately, led in a very obvious way by our politicians. Seeking, in the run-up to an election, to politicize this event for their own gain. You see it in pro-gun and anti-gun lobbies. You see it in people that have money to be made off of these arguments and these insults and this division and this negativity. And like I said, I know it's easy to get caught up. Please do not be a part of it. These feelings of aggression toward your fellow human, your fellow American, when you can't agree on the right solution to these problems. They come from grief and from fear and from passion, and they're understandable, but they do nothing for us. Tears and prayers for all of Orlando, for all of America, for those who have been persecuted, for those who have lost lives because of a horrible act of hate visited upon them because of who they love. We weep for those that were lost. We stand strong for those who lost them. Always love, never surrender.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. You do what we do. You do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. You do what we do. You do what we do. Well, it's a new one. Here I come again, taking it back to the place where I'm picking up the pen. And before I started, it's already a killer. When you know that you're good, I gotta say that it's a thriller. Hey, I do it my way, bitch. Taking advantage of the gift, we gotta make it and pay to play. So what do you say, bitch?
So, one of our listeners, Lauren, has been, I guess I guess you would call it boots on the ground when it comes to helping folks. And was nice enough to provide me with some numbers. Basically, they're providing mobile crisis therapy. If you're in or around Orlando, write this down. The Zebra Hotline, 407-822-5036. 407-822-5036. They are open till 9 o'clock. There's counseling provided by VA counselors. If you need to talk, sometimes your friends, your neighbors, they're going through their own stuff. Right now, more than ever, they are going through their own stuff. And the value of having someone who is not there to share and relate their own experiences, that can definitely be worth your time. So the Zebra Hotline, 407-822-5036. The UCF Counseling Services located at Student Union Cape Florida Ballroom, 407-823-2311. That's 407-823-2311. There are places where you can get counseling. There are places where you can get help throughout Orlando. And if you want to hit me up, ad@iheartmedia.com, I will gladly forward the list on to you. Please, in this time, take some time to care for yourself. I know you. I know you've been doing everything you can to care for others, but take some time to look after yourself. You need it. Everybody does at this moment in time. It is, of course, not news that our country suffered another mass shooting over the weekend. Unthinkable, really. Yet more and more commonplace. Too tragic to fully comprehend. Too tragic to process. Which is why you might need some help processing it. 29-year-old man whose name that I've decided I'm not going to say. You know, this school of thought that we're not going to keep using this name when we talk about him on the news, or we're not going to keep using this name when we are bringing him up in any way, shape, or form. That surrounded things like San Bernardino, Boston. When I first saw that, I was like, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, look, this is a person whose name is going to be used. You have to go ahead and use it so people have context and know who you're talking about. And then I realized I vaguely remember the Boston bomber's name. And that was a guy that was on the cover of Rolling Stone. The San Bernardino shootings. For a while, they were emblazoned in my mind. If I had to take a test on it right now, I don't know if I would pass. And you know what? I think that's a good thing. So for the first time ever, when we deal with an atrocity like this, I'm leaving the name out. I won't use a name. I'll allow them to be forgotten quicker than the Boston bombers. I'll allow them to be forgotten quicker than the San Bernardino shooters. So that their name dies and all that is left is the memory of the atrocity they were part of. I will never forget. You will never forget. We will never forget what has happened. But the name of this person is something that will not leave my lips. Because I intend for his name to be forgotten. As we remember his horrific deeds, we will not glorify him to others that would seek to do similar things to us. So we'll call him a 29-year-old man. Opened fire 2 a.m. Sunday morning. Pulse in Orlando, Florida. Officially the deadliest mass shooting in the history of this country, worst terrorist attack since 9/11, and the greatest act of homophobia ever perpetrated in this country, to my knowledge. And yes, absolutely a terrorist attack. Shooter had been on the FBI watch list for several years. Called 911 during the attack to pledge his allegiance to ISIS. People saying it's not terrorism, it's a hate crime. The two things are not mutually exclusive. The FBI cleared him. Oof. FBI cleared him in 2014, decided he wasn't a threat. Cleared him in 2014 and decided that he wasn't a threat.
Look at that, just shooting back and forth. That is crazy. Look at this. Let's go. Llama Alfredo. He's telling you to come. Oh my God, they're all shooting back and forth. Let's go.
Cleared in 2014 by the FBI, who decided he wasn't a threat. ISIS took credit for it. Not clear if they ordered it or they're just claiming it since the shooter was one of their followers. A lone wolf, as they call it. U.S. citizen, born here, lived here his whole life. Parents from Afghanistan. Able to legally buy the rifle he used in the attack 12 days ago. His father said he probably targeted a gay nightclub because he got angry earlier this year when he saw, quote, 2 men kissing each other in Miami. Also doesn't believe his son was driven to attack because of radical Islamic beliefs. Just snapped. This has nothing to do with religion. We are in shock like the whole country, quote, unquote. Shooter's ex-wife told reporters he had a history of mental illness and steroids. Abused her, beat her. With the help of her parents, she left him after 2 years. So there you have it. There you have all the issues rolled into one horrific package. The idea of gun control, the idea of mental illness, the idea of terrorism, the idea of the persecution of people because of who they love, the idea of all the ugliness that plagues us in the worst possible way on the planet right now. Rolled into one terrible night.
The individual believed to be responsible for the terror attack at the Orlando Club Pulse early Sunday morning has been identified as Omar Mir Sadiq Martin, age 29, an American citizen born in New York. He died of an exchange of gunfire with police officers early this morning. The FBI first became aware of Martin in 2013 when he made inflammatory comments to coworkers alleging possible terrorist ties.
So there's really every hot button issue that plagues us in America wrapped up in this at the moment. So what do we do? Who are you in the face of this? I'm not sure who's responsible. I'm not sure who's responsible for the quote. But you ever heard that expression, a twig can snap because it's weak? Many twigs bundled together are strong. This is a time about unity. This is a time for unity. This is a time where America, a land based on individual liberty, must unify. And it's interesting. We talk a lot on this show about how the idea of being a joiner doesn't really celebrate the individual. Our individual liberties in this country are not really supported. People want us to throw into groups. People want us to be easily identified. People want us to give I want us to have a name, a color, a race, a creed, a definition that defines us and negates us simultaneously. But it's time now for you, for me, for all of us who are on the side of humanity to individually decide. It starts in your own heart and your own mind. It is time for all of us to individually decide that we stand for one another. That we put aside our differences of how to get where we're going and recognize that we are all headed toward the same destination. It is a time where we're in a system that seeks to divide us and conquer us. This is the very nature of our political process in this country as we get ready to welcome someone new into the White House. You know, you can't participate unless you register and are easily labeled as this, that, or the other thing. Unless you're registered this or that, you don't get to be a part of the primaries. So, take your number, join your club if you want to be a part of what's going on. It's not how things should be, in my mind. But it is in this time where politicians would seek to divide us for their own gain, where left, right, whatever fringe version of that is getting some traction, would seek to pit us against one another. There has never been a more important time in our history for us to put aside differences. Or perhaps even celebrate differences, recognize, accept, revel in the differences, revel in the diversity that makes us great. And decide we will stand up for our fellow human being. I implore you. It starts with you. It starts in your heart and it starts in your mind. I implore you to do what it takes to take the first step to stand up for your fellow human.
Days like this when I feel untouchable, I try and make up for all the wrongs I did by living my life like a Cosby kid, jamming on the one like Theo and Stevie.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me.
Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal spoke at Muhammad Ali's funeral this past weekend, just gone by, before the events in Florida. But I found one portion of what he said to be so pertinent and so valuable in this time. Muhammad Ali, a polarizing figure. You may have strong feelings about him negatively now. But I think this is valuable to all of us, no matter who you are and no matter what you think.
I've labored to come up with a way to describe the legend. He was a tremendous bolt of lightning, created by Mother Nature out of thin air, a fantastic combination of power and beauty. We've seen still photographs of lightning bolts at the moment of impact, ferocious in its strength, magnificent in its elegance. And at the moment of impact, it lights up everything around it. so you can see everything clearly. Muhammad Ali struck us in the middle of America's darkest night, in the heart of its most threatening gathering storm. His power toppled the mightiest of foes, and his intense light shined on America. And we were able to see clearly injustice, inequality, poverty, pride, self-realization, courage, laughter, love, joy, and religious freedom for all. Ali forced us to take a look at ourselves. This brash young man who thrilled us, angered us, confused, and challenged us ultimately became a silent messenger of peace, who taught us that life is best when you build bridges between people, not walls.
It's powerful stuff. Now, you might think a wall might be a great idea. But what I take from that, and what I take from everything that has happened in the last 48 hours, is that a bridge of understanding, especially for the LGBT community, is more important now than ever before. Like I said, this one horrific night crystallized and made clear so many of the issues that plague America at the moment. There is nothing to be gained from division. There is nothing to be gained from hate. There is nothing to be gained from being anything other than compassionate to those that you don't understand. I guess I really kind of sum it up in the following way. Talk about this all the time. If it makes you happy, and you're not hurting anybody, well, far be it from me to have a problem with it. I remember one of my best friends on the face of the planet, one of my best friends in the world. I've been friends with this guy since the 6th grade. There was a time in my life where I just couldn't talk to him. Why? I didn't understand the choices he was making. And bear with me, because this sounds mind-numbingly simple. But the lesson I learned from it was so profound. I hope you get something out of it the way I did. But I couldn't talk to this guy. We'd been best friends since the 6th grade. And for a while, we'd stay in touch, but I just couldn't spend time around him because I didn't understand him. I really didn't. I'm a workaholic. It's what I do. I believe that we are put on this earth to help make the world go around, to be contributing members of society. I believe that when you have emotional problems, hard work, that is what is going to help you keep putting one foot in front of the other. Hard work is the cure-all for absolutely everything. It is intrinsically who I am and hardwired into my nature. I believe that if you want to get somewhere in this world, you work harder than the person sitting next to you, and that's how you do it. Hard work trumps everything in my mind. Maybe to my detriment. Definitely to my detriment sometimes. Does hard work represent escapism? Yeah, maybe. But it's who I am. It's what I do. I work. I can outwork anybody else. It's not the smartest way to go through life, but it's just who I am. And my best friend since the 6th grade, he would prefer not to work as much as possible. He wants to take it easy. I say, you've got a wife, you've got a kid, you have responsibilities. And he's like, my responsibility is to keep the lights on and then spend as much time as I can doing the things that make me happy. And what makes me happy is being a good, present father for my kid. What makes me happy is being around my wife as often as possible for as many hours in the day as I can. I was like, you're living life financially on the razor's edge. You could pick up more work. I hear you've got these problems making ends meet. You could pick up more work. And you could give yourself some financial breathing room. You could hustle yourself into a better place in life for that wife and that family that you say you care so much about. And what happened when I thought about this and when I looked at who he was and where he was, opened my eyes like you wouldn't believe. How so? We'll talk about it next. Thank you for hanging out.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So before we get back to the story of my lifelong friend and how I just couldn't talk to him for years because fundamentally at his core, he was so different than me. Before we get to that, I don't know if you caught James Corden last night at the Tony Awards in New York.
All around the world, people are trying to come to terms with the horrific events that took place in Orlando this morning. On behalf of the whole theatre community and every person in this room, our hearts go out to all of those affected by this atrocity. All we can say is you are not on your own right now. Your tragedy is our tragedy. Theatre is a place where every race, creed, sexuality and gender is equal, is embraced and is loved. Hate will never win. Together, we have to make sure of that. Tonight's show stands as a symbol and a celebration of that principle. This is the Tony Awards.
So, my best friend since the 6th grade, just very differently wired to me, to the point where I couldn't stand talking to him for a couple of years. He did things very differently than I did. I go through life with the brakes on. I'm cautious. I'm a workaholic. He blindly married his high school sweetheart that he'd been with since they were 14 years old. When we were very young, went to his wedding, which was a beautiful thing. And I knew that maybe it wasn't the most sensible thing to do, but he's my best friend. I loved him. So I showed up at his wedding and was part of a beautiful day. I didn't have a problem with him getting married so young. I just thought, well, that's him and I'm me, and I would never do something like that. Flash forward years later, he has a kid, still with his wife, and staring down the barrel of some very real financial problems. And I was like, look, man, I can help you get more work. More work will solve your problems. More work will bring you closer to being able to look after that family that you purport to love so much. And he just wasn't about it. He wasn't. I couldn't hack it. I was so frustrated because I felt like his life was going to go up in flames, that he would lose everything that he cared about so much. Fast forward another couple of years. He's still It's not even that he's a friend. He's family. And I remember at one point when I was going through a really tough time for any number of reasons. When that attitude of mine of, I'm going to go through life with the brakes on, I'm going to be cautious, I'm going to be careful, I'm going to work, and that will solve all my problems. Unsurprisingly, that didn't work out too well for me. And he was there when I needed him. He was there just to listen, to be a friend. And I remember looking at him, sitting across the table from him, and thinking, he had it figured out. His work ethic hadn't changed. He's still as determined as ever to work as little as possible, spending as much time with his family as he can, being as involved in his kid's life, being as involved in his wife's life as he can, and also having plenty of time to do the things that make him happy. Financially, I think he still kind of sort of lives on the razor's edge. We don't talk about it as much. But there he is. Family full of love. Family full of smiles. Family full of joy. His wife and him still together. They're the only people that one another have been with ever. He married his first girlfriend, the girl that he's been with since he was 13, 14 years old. And let's just think about that for a second. He married his high school girlfriend and doesn't like to work especially hard. These are not recipes for success in life as you go through it. But you know what? He made it work for him. And there I was talking to him, my life in shambles, and I realized how foolish and arrogant I had been. Not because I was wrong to want to work hard. Not because I was wrong to go through life cautiously. Not because I was wrong to not marry my high school girlfriend, as much as in the 10th grade I couldn't imagine being with anybody but her. As much as I couldn't imagine being with anybody at her, in my 10th grade mind, I knew it's not a sensible thing to marry the girl you're with when you're 15 until you've experienced a bit of life. I was right. I was right. All of those things. I was right about all of them. Yet, while it was completely different from the way I chose to go through life, all the actions he took were right for him. And it was such a mind-numbingly simple concept that it had evaded me for so long. There I was, an adult, making adult decisions and only just realizing, truly realizing that what might be right for you might not be right for some. I realized that I could never live the way this guy was living, ever. And I've never been divided by issues of race. I've never been divided by issues of politics from people that I love and I care about. I've never been divided by issues of sexuality, religion, any of the above. I considered myself to be so enlightened because I didn't let any of that sort of thing get in the way. No, I am the man of the world. I am cosmopolitan. I'm a person that understands everybody else. And, like the issues of race, gender, religion, politics, they don't divide me. I'm a human being. And I realized, I stopped talking to my best friend in the world because he didn't work as hard as I thought he should. And I couldn't talk to that guy. And then I realized the truth of it all. This guy was living life in a fundamentally different way to me that I did not understand and couldn't relate to, and therefore it wasn't valid to me. My best friend. I shut the door on my own best friend. I couldn't take it. I found it so frustrating to talk to him. Can't talk to that guy. Love him, can't talk to that guy. And then the enormity of it hit me. How could I have been so blind? How could I have been so stupid? How could I have been a person that preaches tolerance and understanding and not talk to my own best friend because he didn't share my work ethic? Never felt more foolish in my entire life. Never felt more hypocritical in my life. All these high-minded principles I espoused. And I was neglecting to do something very basic and human. And then I realized, it's so simple. He's happy. And who is he hurting? Nobody. I don't know how they do it. Nor do I make it my business. But they get by. They want for nothing. Kid has everything he needs. Wife has everything they need. They're happy in the work that they do. It's meaningful for them. And mostly it's meaningful for them because it allows them to spend time with one another. And that was when it really hit me. You know, if you're not hurting anybody else, who am I to say what's right or wrong? As long as you're not hurting anybody else. And if it makes you happy, who am I to say what's right or wrong? So simple. Such a basic concept. Something that we probably have all heard and will hear from the cradle to the grave. But so easy to not live by those words. And now more than ever before, I think we need to. The LGBT community. When I woke up to the news of what had happened in Orlando, it's so simple, and it almost. I'm hesitant to share it with you. Because when I woke up to the news, I was like, oh, this happened. This happened in a gay nightclub. These people have been through enough. Which sounds indelicate. These people have been through enough. But it's true. It's true. Because of who a person loves, they are persecuted. Because of who a person loves, they have to fight to just be themselves. The gay people that I know, that I work with, that I call friends, there's a common thread that runs throughout all of them that has nothing to do with sexuality. But it's the fact that theirs was not an easy road in this world. It wasn't. I remember having this conversation with a gay friend of mine about choosing. Someone said, oh, you chose this lifestyle. He's like, do you really think I would have chosen this lifestyle? I was like, no, you didn't choose this lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle. It's who you are. He's like, yes, that's true. It's who I am. I was like, I don't remember making a conscious decision to like boobs. I just like boobs. And he was like, exactly. Do you think I would choose to go this route? Do you think I would choose to go this route? Do you think it makes my life any easier to be who I am? I said, no, I don't think you would. And I was like, it's a great reminder to all of us. None of us get to choose who we are, but we get to choose how we play the hand life deals us. And I hope today you play your hand in a way that is nothing but love and compassion for everyone around you, no matter how different they may be. Thank you so much.
And sometimes you feel good about yourself for being the better person and doing that well.